Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening, maybe even good morning, depending on what time zone you're in. My name is Taylor. I'm with JTB Business Travel and very glad to be hosting this live learning session. Thank you so much for joining. We have a special guest with us today from SAP Concur. We're looking forward to that. And as a reminder, we will be hosting these Tech Talks live learning sessions through the month of May. You may have noticed that in the registration link, there are others you can sign up for. So please continue to join us for these insider looks that our technology partners and industry leaders are offering. You don't want to miss them. Now, in our previous Tech Talks, we made a comment regarding the current situation surrounding COVID-19. We just want to say again that we continue to hope that you and your teams and your families are all staying safe and healthy and positive. And please always keep in mind that we're here to support you in practical ways during these unique circumstances. So we hope that you can use these sessions as an opportunity just to focus on what other things lie on the other side of the situation for all of us so that we can have something to look forward to and be hopeful about. So to keep things moving, I want to offer some housekeeping tips. This session is in listen-only mode. That means you'll be able to hear us, but we won't be able to hear you. This will help to keep background noise levels down and make this Tech Talk experience an enjoyable one for all of you. That being said, if you have any questions during today's session, please enter those in using the questions box. If you haven't located where that is yet, you can find that on your GoToWebinar control panel. It's a really great feature, so please use that for sending us any questions you have today during this session. During today's session, there will be polls that will activate, and you'll receive a prompt on your screen when we do that. Please respond to the poll by selecting your answer within the poll box. Just a note, in addition, this Tech Talk session will be recorded, so if needed, you can request a copy of the recording from us by replying to the email you received upon registration or sending us an email at businesstravel@jtbusa.com. So to get right into things, here's what you have to look forward to for this session. We'll have two speakers today, Ash Travav of JTB Business Travel and Christine Malcolm of SAP Concur. They'll be speaking to us all about the service powered by SAP Concur. So please don't hesitate when it comes to questions that you may have because we will conclude today with a question and answer session. So remember as needed to send us those questions using the questions box. At this point, I'm pleased to introduce Ash, my boss and the general manager here at JTB Business Travel. Ash will go ahead and get this session going. Ash, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Taylor. Appreciate that. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody joining us from all over the world. We really appreciate your attendance and thank you for being part of this Tech Talk session. Just real quick, as Taylor mentioned, I know that the sound might have been coming across a little bit broken. We do apologize for that, but I wanted to just point out that during today's session, if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them into the questions box, and we'll be answering those questions at the end of the session. So I'm very excited and pleased to introduce Christine from SAP Concur to all of you. We'll be hosting the session together, and we'll be talking to you about travel and expense management made simple. JTB Business Travel has partnered with Concur over a number of years now, and we believe that the Concur experience is truly an amazing one, and we encourage all of you to either look at Concur Travel and Expense or Expense, depending on your appetite and your organization, as a solution to make things a lot easier in your companies and in your organizations. So with that, Christine, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Ash, and good afternoon, good evening, or maybe even good morning to those folks joining us on the line today. My name is Christine Malcolm, and I'm part of our webinar and insight series team here at SAP Concur, where I was typically traveling all over the US talking to businesses about why other best-in-class organizations are automating their accounts payable process and the benefits they've gained with the partnership with SAP Concur. Prior to this role, I had the privilege of working with mid-size and enterprise-level organizations on their spend management and customer experience goals. I'm so glad to be joining you all today. So when I'm talking to businesses and leaders, there's common goals that they're looking to achieve. Things like strategic growth, having timely and accurate data, and looking inward to streamline current processes, just to name a few. But now businesses have slightly shifted their focus to reflect the current climate that we're in. And this is also changing their current challenges that they're facing. So keeping employees safe and healthy is at top of mind while they're either working from home or if they have to still go into the office to maybe process invoices or expenses or cut those checks for employees. Making sure that they have the appropriate equipment to work effectively, whether that's a laptop, a headset, or in some cases, companies are sending masks to their employees so that when they can return to the office, they can wear those to be safe. There's a lot of economic uncertainty as to how long this pandemic will last and the stress it's putting on businesses around the world. Companies are keeping a close eye on their books so that they have enough cash flow to really weather the storm. In recent conversations with clients, we're seeing more and more companies implement hiring freezes to protect their existing workforce. This means that their employees are having to do more with less and potentially exposing those inefficient processes that could be in place today. So, as we move through the presentation today, we're going to talk about how we can help you with these challenges and partner with you, whether that's today or in the near future. Now, before we dive in, I do just want to call out what our company SAP is doing to help businesses weather this storm. So here at SAP Concur, we're offering flexible contract terms, and TripIt Pro is 6 months free. On the SAP Qualtrics side of the house, we're offering our remote work pulse survey so that companies can stay in touch with their employees and making sure that they have everything they need while they're in this new environment. And then with SAP Ariba Discovery, we're opening up those supply chain lines so that we're connecting those buyers and suppliers. In fact, one of our clients was able to secure 500 hospital beds from an alternative vendor in just under 30 minutes. So I think it's important to call this out because this truly speaks to the impact that technology has on a situation like COVID-19, but hopefully it gives you a glimpse into who we are as a company and what partnership would look like with us.
Great. Thank you, Christine. So I think that it's important to talk a little bit about what the impact is of COVID-19 within our clients. And of course, with that, we'd like to ask you all to respond to a poll that should be showing up on your screen here just momentarily. So the question that we have for all of you is, how will COVID-19 change how your company is processing expense reports? So with employees now working from home, in many cases, going into the office and doing some of the things that you normally did is not really an option. So we wanted to ask you to please respond to the poll and let us know what is going on in your organization, if anything. So one of the answers is that you're looking for ways to simplify and automate expense reports. You might already have automation in place, or you might say that you don't expect much change. So let's give everybody a couple of minutes here, and we'll have the poll results showing up just in a couple of seconds. Give you all some time to respond. Okay, so we have some results here. Good results. So 57%, Christine, are saying that they're looking for ways to simplify and automate their expense reports. 14% already have an automation, meaning no Excel sheets. And 29% are not really expecting to see much change. So what do you think about the results, Christine, as you see them here?
Yeah, well, it's great to see that people are looking to automate their expense reporting process. Perfect time joining us today here. And I will say that the companies that I'm talking to on a daily basis, they are in the same boat. So they are really, it's something that was probably on the radar maybe a few months ago, but now that we're in this work from home situation, it has really accelerated that timeline so that it makes life a lot simpler for employees.
All right, so take it away. Let's show them how they can simplify things.
Yeah, fantastic. So for those of you who may not be as familiar with SAP Concur, or maybe you've just joined your organization, we're a cloud-based software solution with an overarching goal of helping you manage any outgoing spend you may have as a business. So when we look at a typical spending breakdown, 10% is going to T&E. 35% is for payroll and benefits, and 55% is really everything else. So it's those recurring bills coming in on a monthly basis, like rent, utilities. And so You've likely already automated your payroll and benefits with a solution from SAP SuccessFactors, ADP, or even Paychex. So where SAP Concur comes in is that remaining 65% of your spend that you already have. And just a little bit more about who we are as a company. So we've been the industry leader for the 27 years that we've been in business. And 6 years ago, we were acquired by SAP, and it really was because of our expertise in the spend management space. Now, we have over 50,000 clients globally, but half of those are small to mid-sized businesses. So it's really not uncommon that we would subscribe single users all the way up through enterprise level organizations to Concur. You're never going to have to worry about ever outgrowing our solution. And especially given the times that we're in, I always like to call out our mobile capabilities, and I will show them here to you in just a little bit. We have a 4.7 rating and over 600,000 reviews, the highest rated mobile app in the marketplace. And we were doing mobile before COVID-19, we'll be doing mobile after COVID-19. And so Concur is going to look and feel like those consumer applications that your employees are likely using today. So the transition to Concur should be pretty seamless. And our platform is composed of our 3 core solutions. So we have our AP invoicing solution, our corporate travel booking tool, and our expense reporting solution. And these are all housed under one roof. Now, this is valuable for you because you're not having to manage multiple sites, logins, or softwares. But most importantly, we're able to aggregate all of your spend onto one report, giving you that holistic view of your business from a spend perspective. So for today's presentation, we're going to be focused on SAP Concur Expense. And Ash, I believe we have a poll.
Yes, we're going to keep our audience entertained today, Christine. So second poll of the day is we want to kind of understand how long does it typically take you to complete an expense report. So as a business traveler myself, one of the things I always look forward to is using that Concur expense process and getting my expense report done in under 10 minutes. But I'm wondering what the rest of you are thinking on your side. So maybe some of you are still filling out that old Excel sheet and stapling receipts together, or you might be looking for ways to improve, or you might actually be like a traveler like me who just doesn't take that much time to do an expense report. So go ahead and fill out your response, and let's see what we get on the poll results here. And then you'll see how amazing Concur Expense is when Christine shows it to you guys in just a second here. Okay. Give you guys a couple of seconds, read all the answers. All right, so we have a nice combination of people on the phone. 25% are saying it's taking them too long and they're doing the traditional Excel sheet. 40% are saying not long, but they're looking for ways to improve that. So maybe they're changing the way they process expense reports. Maybe they're not in the office as much anymore. And the good news is that there are some people who take less than 10 minutes and they're expense users, so that's great. So Christine, I think we are ready to show them how easy it is to use expense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I will say that studies show that it takes around 55 minutes to complete an expense report in a manual environment. So, and that's based on different travelers. So with our solution here, really our goal is to make this quick and simple for your employees to create and submit their expense reports. So for me, myself, like I said, I was typically traveling around 50% of the time. And at the end of the month, I had a lot of expenses, but it took me about 6 minutes to do my expense report, kind of like Ash. So we're going to talk about how we can really speed up that time for your end users and create those efficiencies to really control company compliance, something that is probably really important right now, given that everyone's working from home, and all while giving you visibility into your employee-related spend. So there's a number of different ways that we can capture your expense information. And the first that I'm going to cover is using our Concur mobile app. So for those out-of-pocket expenses that you may be having, it is really quick and simple to do this on our Concur mobile app. So the functionality really lies within the bottom bar in the camera icon. So I simply open that up. And I have my receipt here for my HDMI cord. I snap a photo and I click done. Now, what this is doing is running through OCR, or optical character recognition technology. Now, OCR, high level, is designed to scrape off all the important data from a document, or in this case, a receipt, and then populate that into the appropriate fields within a software solution. So within here, SAP Concur. And this typically takes less than a minute. We can see that my receipt is already ready for me to review. So it has pulled off the correct amount, the expense type that's coming in from our general ledger, the date, the vendor, and the location. So I didn't have to type any of this in. It's done all of this for me, and I can now go ahead and throw my receipt away and move this over to my expense report. So again, we just want to make it really quick and simple for your employees to make those, do those expense reports. Now, on another way is through our EReceight program. So this is our electronic receipt program, and this is when you're connecting our Concur travel booking tool with the Concur expense. And this is, our clients are finding so much value from this because when they're booking their flights or their car rentals or their hotels, again, very sensitive to the situation we're in here. So when they are ready to do those again, those receipts will simply flow into their expense report. So we have 100% of airline participation as well as 100% of car rentals. And then when it comes to hotels, this is where our end users really start to fall in love with Concur because we're itemizing their hotel folios for them. Something that in the past took quite a bit of time. I've been traveling for my work for as long as I can imagine. And having those hotel receipts was such a pain to itemize all of those out. But with SAP Concur, we're going to do that for you. And then for the back office folks, we're building in your company's policy. So if you don't reimburse your employees for things like alcohol or minibar or in-room entertainment, you can build in those compliance rules here. So you can create various audit rules to flag for those types of expenses and require that your employees actually remove those from their expense report so you're not reimbursing them for those types of expenses. So again, you can come in here, you can create various audit rules and just ensure that you're spending your money within your company's guidelines. Now, moving over to our expense report from our web interface here. So really best practice is to work from the top down when it comes to our expenses and exceptions. So on the left side of the screen here, these are all my expenses that I've incurred from this trip from Seattle to Los Angeles. And I want to draw your attention to that red warning icon on the left side of the screen. I like to call this the visual guilt. So this is your policy baked into SAP Concur. So let us be the bad guys and tell your employees that their expense, that what they're trying to submit is outside of your company's policy. So in this case, it looks like business meal. I have this red warning icon, and I can see it's because I haven't filled in the business purpose. Now, again, when I'm talking to those back office folks, they say that really the bottlenecks within the approval process are because people simply just don't know what information needs to be filled out. So all within Concur, we can make those fields required so that your employees have to fill out something like a business purpose before they can go ahead and submit this expense for approval. Now, I want to draw your attention to the payment type, and this is another way you can get your expenses into Concur, and that's if you're using a corporate credit card. So we would set up a direct connection, direct feed to that corporate card so that every time your employees are swiping their card to make a purchase, it would show up as a line item on their expense report. And oftentimes, companies are requiring their employees to submit separate expense reports for their corporate card expenses and then another report for their out-of-pocket expenses, something like that HDMI cord that I just took a picture of. But because we differentiate between the payment type, we can bring all of those expenses onto a single report. And then on the back end, we give you reporting to show you the breakdown between those two. And I'll show you that in just a little bit. when it comes to coding, so we can really customize this here for you. So if you have those expenses that need to be marked as billable or non-billable, if you have projects or phases or departments that you need to code this particular expense out to, we can build that in here for you as well. But what I do want to note is that if you're seeing something on the screen that doesn't really apply to you or your business, don't worry about it. It's simply just going to disappear. We want this experience to be as clean and simple for your end users as possible. Now, if you have those expenses that need to be split out between, let's say, 2 departments, for example, I just come into my allocate button, and then from these drop-down menus, I select which departments, or in this example, divisions, I want to split this expense out to. And all of these are coming from your general ledger. So by me coding this expense to sales and events, a 50-50 split, I'm coding that back into the general ledger, and I'll talk about the options when it comes to integration. So for those of you who are maybe looking to track attendees, if you have events coming up, or maybe in the past when you're taking those folks out to dinner, we can track that information for you here as well. Maybe you're looking to see who you're spending your most money on, and if you're getting that return on your investment. So clicking into our attendees tab, you can require certain information to be filled out. Typically, that's the first, last name, and company of that particular person. And if you have those folks who you're taking out on a pretty regular cadence, so in this example here, we have our good friend George Costanza, we would simply add him to our favorites tab, and then we wouldn't have to fill out that information each time. Now, we are going to automatically divide this expense evenly amongst the attendees. If you would like to get a little more granular here and want to have it reflect what they actually ordered, you can change those totals to reflect that. So let's say George, he loves his steak, and we need to update his total to reflect that. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so I've cleared my business meal exception. So I'm on the right path here. And this leads me to the next way you can get your expenses into Concur, and that's via email. So for myself, I have my Verizon bill. It gets emailed to me. So I simply just forward that email to receipts@concur.com. And then that is going to show up in what we call our virtual wallet. So these expenses on the right side of your screen. I have all these expenses that haven't been assigned to a report, so I simply just select those ones that I want to add and then drag and drop them into my expense report. It's pretty simple. Now, the last thing that I'll show you here with an expense is personal car mileage. Now, I understand that not a lot of us are traveling these days, so I am very sensitive to this, and I'll go over this pretty quickly. So the first way you can track your personal car mileage is with Concur Drive. So it's built within our Concur mobile app, and you simply just hit start when you're ready to start your trip, and it's going to use your phone's GPS to track your mileage and capture that. At the end of your trip, you just hit stop, end your trip, and then it's going to give you what you see on that far right-hand screenshot. There is a map of the route that you took. So mileage is one of those expenses that it's the most padded expense type, not because people are hopefully they're not doing donuts in the parking lot trying to get more added to their reimbursement, but it's simply because math is just hard. So we make it really easy for you to track this mileage for you, and then you just simply move that over to an expense report. The second way that we can help you track mileage is with our mileage calculator. And I am always using this one because when I was traveling to the airport early in the morning, I would always forget to turn on Concur Drive. So this is a direct integration with Google Maps, and I simply just plug in my start and stop locations. From here, I would choose the route that I took, and then it would calculate my mileage reimbursement. Okay, so it looks like all of our visual guilt, has been cleared. Our expense report is good to go. So now I can just come in and submit this expense, and hopefully my manager will be approving it shortly. Which brings me to the approvals. So there's a lot of customization when it comes to approvals for expense reports. And let's say with that business meal expense, I had split that out between 2 different departments. So when I send this through to approval, it's going to go to those 2 different department heads so that they can approve it. So if you need to have your director or manager, or maybe your CFO needs to approve expenses over a certain dollar threshold, again, we can build that in into your workflow. But what I really want to highlight here is that as soon as this expense hits Concur, you're going to have visibility into this. And typically with those out-of-pocket expenses, they wouldn't really be realized until that's been turned in, submitted, and added into the system. So in that same vein of visibility, this is really our end goal, is to give you that centralized place to view all of your expenses and where they are in their approval journey. Is this expense, has it been sitting on an expense report and it hasn't been submitted yet? Or has it been sitting on the manager's desk for X number of days? You can come in and view specific information using our keyword search. I like to call it the Google of Concur. Or you can also create custom queries. So a lot of companies I talk to, they need to see specific information. So things like they need to see those expenses that are with a specific expense type. So they plug in that information to our custom query, and then they can see all the expense reports that fall within those search parameters. So when it comes to the reporting side that I briefly mentioned, we have our executive overview dashboard. And this is going to be, we can really help you customize this to the data that you are needing to see. Oftentimes when I'm talking to folks in the back office, like the AP teams, they are getting a lot of requests from their leadership. They're looking for data, things like who's our top spending employee, what's our top exception, policy exception, how many people are using our corporate credit card. And in a manual environment, it can be pretty difficult and pretty time consuming to put all of this data together. So we have this dashboard pre-built for you, and you can, as I said, customize this. And we can also help you burst it out and schedule this to a cadence that works best for those leaders. So let's say your CFO needs to see this information every Monday morning at 8 o'clock. We can have this dashboard land right in their inbox. Diving deeper into some of the reports that you'll have available is our credit card transaction report. So if you're using those corporate cards to pay for some of those expenses, we have this report for you. And this really helps speed up the reconciliation from a back office perspective. So not only will you be able to see those transactions that have been assigned to an expense report, but you can also see those expenses that have not been assigned to an expense report. And then that brings me to our expense accruals report. And this is very popular with our clients because this is that report that provides that visibility into your cash flow as it's happening. So this is that report where you can see all of those cash expenses. As soon as they hit your employee's Concur profile, you can report on this and have visibility. You can see that breakdown between our corporate travel card and then our cash expenses. So as I said, in a manual environment, typically these cash expenses aren't realized until they've been entered into the system. And then that really impacts the overall cash flow of the company. So you'll be able to report on this from the back office perspective. And so once your employees have submitted their expense reports and they've been processed, now it's time to pay them. And if you'd like us to help with this, we would certainly be glad to. we have what's called expense pay, and we can reimburse your employees using a 3-day ACH payment directly to their bank account. And we can also help with reimbursing, paying off those corporate credit cards as well. So how it works is typically, again, I get to talk to a lot of back office folks, and I hear a lot of, what they're going through. And oftentimes where those bottlenecks and where the holdup is really with the reimbursement side of things is that, people, it's all very paper based, and their employees are getting frustrated. They want to know where their reimbursement check is. And because AP doesn't have this in a centralized format, they don't always have those answers. I myself, before coming to work for SAP, was submitting my expense reports via a paper form, and I would attach my receipts to that form, and then I would mail that off to the corporate office of my company, which was located in New York City. And oftentimes I would wait 3, 4, 5 months before I would get a check in the mail. And that whole time I was wondering, where's my reimbursement? Where's my check? I need to pay off this credit card bill with these expenses. So with Concur, we take the guesswork out of that, and we let your employees know with an email notification where their expense report is at every stage of the process. So when it's been submitted, when it's been approved, and when it's pending for that final payment. And then we're also going to let them know when they can expect that payment to hit their bank account. So again, it really takes the guesswork out of this. Now that I work for SAP Concur, I never have to wonder when I'm going to be getting my reimbursement check or my reimbursement ACH payment, because I already have that email notification, and I don't even have to check my bank account anymore because I know it's there. Now you're probably wondering, okay, how do we connect all of this? How do we connect our financial system to SAP Concur? And there's a couple of options here for you. So you're seeing some logos up there on the screen, and those are for our pre-built bidirectional connectors. Now, I will say that we work with hundreds of ERPs, so if you're not seeing that logo up there, no worries. You can use our complimentary and, quite frankly, very popular extract file to simply export that data out of SAP Concur and then import that into your financial system. Now, if you'd like to do a combination of the two, what we call our hybrid approach, perfectly fine. We would simply introduce you to a partner of ours that could build out that custom connection for you. But regardless of how this data is flowing back and forth, we're bringing over things like your custom fields. So project, customer, department, location, those GL account codes. And then on the SAP Concur side, we're bringing over only your approved expense reports. If you'd like us to help with the reimbursing of your employees, we would bring over that payment confirmation file. And then depending on your ERP, we'll also bring over those receipt images. So I believe, Ash, I think we're a little bit early for Q&A, but we can go ahead.
Excellent job. Yeah, this was great. Yeah, thank you. So I think that was really informative, and I know we got a bunch of questions coming in, which gives us a little extra time to make sure that we can get to all the questions that have come in through the chat application there. So for any of you who are still thinking that you have something that you want to say and ask, please go ahead and type that into the questions box. As next steps are concerned, we're going to get into Q&A in just a second, but we want to make sure that you all have an opportunity to engage with Concur as next steps. So do speak to your client services manager or email us at csm@jtbusa.com. And we think it's important that we schedule one-on-one meetings to discuss your company's specific needs. So Christine had gone over a lot of different things with you today, and I think that there's going to be some elements of further discussion that are necessary. So do reach out to us through that email address or call your client services manager, and we'll be more than happy to set up a one-on-one meeting to move the discussions forward. So Taylor, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much to both Ash and Christine, and thank you to everyone for attending today's session. Hopefully it was enjoyable and informative to you. We're not done just yet. Even before we get to our question and answer session, we have one last poll that we would like to collect your response on, and you should see it up on your screen now. And the question here is in regards to how you're currently processing expense reports. So we'll go ahead and leave this up as we move into our question and answer session, just to give you a chance to respond to it. So to kick off our first question here, can Concur require my employees to submit expense reports once a month?
Yes, that's a great question. So we can't mandate behavior, but we can help drive it. So that means that having your managers send back those expense reports to your employees with comments, letting them know, you only need to submit this on this particular day. But we can also have customized messaging on the homepage when they log into their Concur profile that lets them know what your expectations are around submission for expense reports.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for answering that. And that brings me to another interesting question we received, because you mentioned comments can be made to employees, but I'm curious to know about comments that maybe can be made to approvers or prompts. So it was asked, is there some sort of reminder or move forward automation in Concur that can just remind approvers to get some expense reports approved? Is there some way that can be done?
Yeah, absolutely. So when there is a expense report waiting for their approval, the approving manager would receive a email notification as well as a push notification on their mobile device, letting them know that that is waiting for their approval. And it'll keep sending it if you want it to.
That's great. So there's not really any limit to that. It can just kind of keep reminding the approver.
It sure can. And I mean, if it's waiting on somebody's desk for a certain amount of time, you could also push that to another person in the approval chain as well.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering that. And is there any way that different policies can be assigned to different groups within a company?
Yes, absolutely. We here at SAP Concur, we have probably hundreds of different policy groups. So that could be assigned at your executive level. If you have, folks that have different travel requirements, there's a lot of flexibility there.
Okay, excellent. And our next question, how will I know if a reservation is EReceipt enabled? So I know that you mentioned as far as the airlines and car rental companies that were EReceipt enabled, but as far as those who are not, how will a traveler be able to know which items will automatically show up in Concur expense and which ones will not?
Sure. So when they're booking on the Concur travel booking tool under the vendor, so let's say it's a Marriott hotel, for example, it will be notated as EReceipt enabled. And then let's say if they're staying at like an Airbnb or one of those mom and pop type of bed and breakfast, then they could just simply again forward their receipt to Concur, and then using what that OCR technology, or what we call expense it can then do the same policy as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And our next question is going back to the mileage part of Concur expense that connects to a traveler's GPS. So if part of my mileage is personal use, how does that display in Concur expense? So Christine, is this something that can be broken up so personal miles are not submitted for reimbursement? I believe you touched on it, but maybe you can just run us back through that briefly.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the mileage, so whether that's using the Concur Drive on the smartphone or also with the mileage calculator, you can deduct any portion of your mileage that may be personal. So if your company, for example, doesn't reimburse you from when you travel from your home to the office, but you are traveling from the office to, let's say, a client, then you can deduct that portion from home to the office, all within both the Concur Drive and then also the mileage calculator.
Oh, great. Thank you. That's very helpful. It's a really neat tool. And then our last question here, can I upload a personalized list of FAQs to my company's Concur expense site?
So I guess personal FAQs, I haven't heard that question before, but there is flexibility with the messaging that you have on that homepage of Concur. So if you have, maybe tips or tricks, maybe it is that FAQ that you wanted to add, you could add that to the homepage as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Christine, and thank you for getting those questions answered. Hopefully we were able to do that for all of you today. That does bring us to the end of our session. We are ending a bit early here, but hopefully that'll give you some time to maybe grab another cup of coffee before you resume your day. Thank you again, both to Ash and Christine. Thank you for representing from SAP Concur, Christine. And we're very pleased at JTB Business Travel to have hosted this session together with SAP Concur. We hope that you all thoroughly enjoyed and benefited from the material presented today. As you can see on your screen, our next Tech Talks is being held on May 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and you won't want to miss that one. The topic is Travel Risk Management powered by WorldAware, and there you'll learn about JTB Business Travel's new travel risk management solution, complete with mobile and messaging capabilities. So it'll be a good one. Join us back for that, and you can register for that one with the same link you used to register for this session. So thank you again, everyone, for joining, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.